My name is Taiba Rahman and I'm Vice President Professional Development at PMI Islamabad. And we recently did a very interesting webinar on behavior management with Paul, and I'm very excited, and today I finally get to meet Paul in person. And considering the webinar, we had some very interesting questions, follow-up questions that we received, and since we already had a meeting arranged with Paul, so I thought it would be a good opportunity for us to kind of go through the set of questions that we received from the audience. So yeah.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Pat. We look forward to it.
Yep. So so Paul, I think one of the first questions that we received was that it was regarding what is the most challenging aspect of behavior management. So what are your thoughts on that?
Fascinating. Early on in the webinar, I put up a slide, which is the basics, the science behind behavior management, behavioral science, and it's got antecedents, behavior, consequences. And behavior in behavior management land is defined as what I say or do, or if it's a team behavior, it's what we say or do. So I've done this for 7-8 years now. I put that slide up early. I define behavior. I define what antecedents are. These are things that support behavior. And then the science really is about consequences and how they have a much greater influence on behavior. And our emphasis is on positive consequences.
Right.
So over the last 7 years with a few thousands of folks, I cover that and I say, do you all recall back in your college days, remember the mice running around in the maze, and you might know the name B.F. Skinner or maybe Pavlov and the Pavlovian dogs, and like you now, majority of people nod yes. And so I've done this every single time, and I say, well, I'm curious, how many of you have ever been in your working careers involved in any kind of a program that's featured behavior science and behavior management? Do me a favor, put it in the chat, raise your hand. Now, the average response is less than 5%. I follow that up by saying, so what I'm going to be covering with you is the most misunderstood, underutilized, enabling tools and methodology that is available to individuals, teams, organizations for any kind of a change initiative. That's the fundamental challenge. People don't know what they don't know.
And I find that line very interesting in terms of people don't know what they don't know. Whereas if you don't know something, how would you know how you can reap benefits out of it, right? So I really find that line interesting. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. The next question would be, what have been your 3 favorite behavior management engagements?
Probably my first one, which I worked with a client. The client was the individual running that organization's Lean Sigma program. And he came to me and he said, the competing business unit competing for who had the best Lean Sigma program, he found out that their black belts weren't doing projects anymore. They were just mentoring green belts. And he said, we have to do the same thing here. So I'm not a fan of copycat management, but the client wants to do it, so be it. So I asked a few questions about their green belt training and certification, and it didn't take me very long to figure out that this was not very well put together. So I said, okay, we're going to eat our own medicine here. Now, I was already doing behaviorally annotated processes supporting Lean Sigma projects. So we actually constructed a 3-page, 11 by 17 behaviorally annotated process for how black belts were going to mentor green belts. This was the whole value chain. How do you select green belt candidates, their projects, how do you get the right black belt, right leadership support, a whole bunch of it. In fact, the whole first tab, 11 by 17, was everything that was done before training. Anyway, we did all of this. It got implemented. Corporate Lean Sigma flagged it as a best practice to share at the Worldwide Lean Sigma Forum. And then their baseline performance was, they had two training weeks for green belt, 2 projects to get certified. Their baseline performance on certification was 20-25%, which I understand is kind of average. I went back 4 years later because I was doing other things in this business unit. Went back to the Lean Sigma person, asked them how they were doing on this. They were at 76% green belt certifications and active involvement by way of doing this. And I thought, boy, what a phenomenal change. Anyway, so that would be number one. Number two was I actually worked with a client who was having a challenge with their Kaizens. You know, how do you really get the leader involved and supported post-event? Of course, if you think process-wise, you can figure out it's not being set up properly. Anyway, we sat down and developed a 3-page behaviorally annotated workflow flagging key and critical behaviors. There was pre-meeting, meeting, and post-meeting. And they utilized that. Now the fundamental changes were huge in all the pre-meeting as well as the meeting activities. The post-meeting was a natural work rate. So to me, that was probably the second one. Third one was supporting an SAP deployment. For this particular client, it was really a watershed project because rather than just supporting Lean Sigma projects, now they could actually see how you could use these tools to actually support a digital transformation. And so those were that was a hallmark one because that led to my involvement in a whole portfolio, a digital transformation portfolio, doing 18 projects over 3 years, all of which were 100% behavior change adoption and sustainability.
Wow, and thank you for sharing. I think it's been really insightful, listening to all the, the initiatives that, the companies were taking and, kind of the benefit that they reaped. Because considering that we are, dealing with massive changes overall at the global level, and, and now is a time that potentially that the leaders need to kind of go through the set of training again because the changes are unprecedented, unaccounted for at most of the times, because the kind of change initiatives that are coming into play are a lot different from what we've seen over the recent years. So it's kind of like a very kind of like an age of rapid development, accelerated development, I would say, in terms of digital transformation and Industry 4 altogether.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But thank you so much.